In a small village in Nigeria lived a farmer named Ade. Ade was a kind and hard-working man, but very poor. He lived alone in a small hut and worked hard each day to grow yams to sell at the market. This was how Ade earned money to buy the few things he needed to survive. For many years, Ade's yam harvests were good. Each season he was able to grow big, healthy yams that fetched a good price at the market. But one year, things changed. When Ade went to harvest his yams, he was shocked to find most of the yams were rotten and covered in bugs. The few yams that were still good were small and scrawny. Ade was confused about why his crop had failed so badly. He had worked just as hard that year to care for the yams. He tilled the soil, weeded the field, watered the yams when rain was scarce. But still the yams were ruined. With barely any yams to sell, Ade did not have money to buy food and supplies until the next harvest. Soon, Ade was hungry and struggling to get by each day. He grew worried that if the next yam crop failed too, he would have no way to earn a living anymore. One day, Ade went to the village elder, Babawu, to ask for advice. Babawu was respected for his wisdom and knowledge of traditions. After Ade described what had happened to his yams, Babawu said, "This is the work of evil spirits. They have put a curse on your farm. You must go see the Great Juju at the sacred grove. Only he can help remove the curse." Though Ade was scared to see the Great Juju, he was more scared of losing his livelihood if the yam curse continued. So Ade decided he must make the journey to the sacred grove and ask the Great Juju to remove the curse on his farm. Early the next morning, Ade set out on foot for the sacred grove in the forest. He carried only a small sack with a day's worth of food and gourd filled with water. The journey took Ade deep into unfamiliar parts of the forest. Strange animal sounds filled the air. Giant trees blocked out the sun. After many hours of walking, Ade was hot, tired, and hungry. But he did not dare stop to rest for fear of evil spirits that might be lurking in the forest. Just when Ade felt like he could not walk any further, he emerged into a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a circle of tall stones. This, Ade knew, was the sacred grove of the Great Juju. Nervously, Ade approached the stones. "Great Juju," he called out. "I am a poor yam farmer named Ade. I seek your help." Right away, the clear sky turned dark. Thunder crashed and lightning flashed, though no rain fell. Ade shivered in fear. Then suddenly, within the circle of stones appeared a giant man almost as tall as the stones themselves. The man glowed and shimmered like smoke. Ade immediately dropped to his knees. "You have entered the sacred realm of the Great Juju," boomed the giant spirit. "Why do you disturb me?" His heart pounding fast, Ade kept his head bowed low. "Great Juju, I am but a poor farmer who grows yams to live. This year, my entire yam crop was ruined by disease and pests. The village elder Babawu told me you have the power to remove curses. I have walked long and far to ask you to please remove the curse on my farm so that my yams will grow big and healthy again." The Great Juju was silent for some time. Ade dared not lift his head. Finally, the Great Juju spoke again. "Indeed, I have the power to remove curses, but I will not do this for nothing. You must complete 3 tasks to prove yourself worthy of my help." Ade's shoulders slumped. He had no choice but to accept the Great Juju's challenge. "I will complete any tasks you ask," said Ade weakly. "For your first task, you must walk 5 times around these sacred stones while chanting and offering this kola nut to me," the Great Juju commanded. He made a kola nut appear in Ade's hand. Ade stood up and began walking slowly around the stones. He completed 5 circles, chanting respectfully to the Great Juju and raising up the kola nut as an offering. By the time he was done, Ade was dizzy from circling so much. But the Great Juju seemed pleased. "For your next task, you must journey to the Valley of Thorns and retrieve some of the magic golden wool that clings to the thorns," said the Great Juju. With a wave of his giant hand, the spirit made a large basket appear at Ade's feet. "Use this basket to carry the golden wool." Ade reluctantly picked up the basket. He had heard tales of the dangerous Valley of Thorns far to the west, filled with razor-sharp thorns as tall as trees. But Ade knew he could not refuse the Great Juju's task. So Ade set off on the long trek to the Valley of Thorns. When Ade arrived at the edge of the valley, he stared in shock. Just as the stories described, gigantic thorns as tall as trees covered the valley floor. The thorns looked painfully sharp. Many of them were coated in a glowing, sparkling, golden substance. This must be the magic wool, Ade realized. But how would he ever get close enough to gather some without getting stabbed by the deadly thorns? Thinking quickly, Ade had an idea. He took out his big harvesting knife and carefully used it to chop and hack away thorny vines, blocking an animal trail. Slowly, he inched along the trail, reaching out with his knife to slice off bits of golden wool caught on the thorns closest to the trail. Whenever a thorn vine obstructed his path, Adi would stop and hack it away. Inch by inch, Ad was able to harvest small amounts of the golden wool without stepping off the trail into the thorns. After many long hours, Ad's basket was filled with glittering golden wool. Exhausted but feeling victorious, Ad made his way back out of the valley and journeyed to the sacred grove to present his basket of wool to the Great Juju. This time, when Ad called out, the Great Juju appeared much faster. "You have succeeded in your second task," the spirit announced after inspecting the golden wool in Ad's basket. "Now just one final task remains." Ad waited anxiously to hear the third task. "For your final task, you must travel to the Mountain of Fire and bring back some of the mystic red clay that gives the mountain its glowing appearance," declared the Great Juju. With a wave of his hand, a new empty basket appeared. "Use this to carry the red clay." The Mountain of Fire was far, far in the east, past many villages Ad had never visited. Rumors said it was guarded by flame spirits and could only be reached through a narrow cave passage. But Ad girded himself for the journey. After thanking the Great Juju, he set off on weary feet. The long walk took Ad through strange lands. He skirted villages to avoid being seen, only venturing close when he needed to refill his water gourd from wells. At night, Ade took shelter under trees, barely sleeping from fear of jungle creatures. Finally, after many days, Ade reached the base of the Mountain of Fire. Just as described, flames seemed to flicker within the mountain's rocky slopes. The opening to the cave passage lay before him, dark and foreboding. Taking a deep breath, Ad entered the cave. He slowly navigated the dark, narrow passageway, feeling his way along the walls. Just as Ad was growing worried the passage might not end, he turned a corner and could see daylight streaming into the cave from the other side. Ad emerged onto a small ledge on the side of the Mountain of Fire. All around him, the rocks glowed red and orange with heat. Steam rose from cracks and vents in the mountainside. Though the ledge was narrow and precarious, Ade carefully inched his way along, using his knife to chip off small amounts of the colorful red clay and put it in his basket. Several times, gouts of steam shot out near where Ade was working, startling him badly. But Ade kept going, determined to complete his final task for the Great Juju. When the basket was nearly full of the magical red clay, Ade made his way back through the treacherous cave passage, relieved to exit back into daylight. Though bone-tired, he turned and began the long journey back to the sacred grove to present his final offering to the Great Juju. This time when Ade called out, the Great Juju appeared almost instantly, in a flash of light and puff of smoke. "You have proven yourself." That's it for this video, folks. Be sure to subscribe to our channel Pigtales for more stories like this one. Leave a comment letting us know what stories you'd like to see come to life. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new African tales and fables every week.